Hello and welcome to season 2, episode 3.5 of your mom's podcast. I'm Avis.
I'm Caroline.
And today we'll be talking about Degrassi season 2, episode 5, Drive. Roses are red and Joey's a dick just because Craig stole a car for Kid Elric. Craig is living the good life over at Joey's. Not only is he safe, Joey trusts him and treats him with respect. Unfortunately, Joey's perhaps a bit too trusting when he decides to leave Craig home alone for the weekend. Soon, the excitement of no adult supervision turns to boredom, and Craig and friends decide to take a car from Joey's lot out on a little joyride. Also in this episode, Ashley considers getting a belly button piercing so Ellie will think she's cool, and learns that not all friends are Paige Michael Chuck. Some of them like you for just being you.
Aw.
Yeah, that was cute.
Yeah, no, it's a cute episode.
I actually particularly, I know we have in the future have started talking about our B plots first. And I actually do, even though I was a little bit annoyed initially, like I think the first rewatch, I was like, oh my gosh, Ashley, just you have a fear of needles, you admit later in this episode. Why are you trying to get just like Ellie's like, why would you try to do that?
Right.
Like I think it's, and then the second rewatch, I was like, okay, like I can see she's traumatized. She's friend traumatized. Low key.
Yeah, no, it's very clear that, if Paige had wanted her to get her belly button pierced, she'd have gotten her belly button pierced.
Totally. She's lucky that Paige Michael Chuck is not into tattoos and body piercings.
I kind of suspect too that if Ashley had come home with Paige and a permission slip, Kate would have been like, no, you're too young. And would have been like, no, this is just more of what we've been doing for years where Paige, you're trying to impress Paige and I'm not playing this game. But I think because it was Ellie, maybe she thought that Ashley actually wanted it.
Mm-hmm. And that's fair because historically, there's been moms can spot that shit. They've been frenemies since they've been they've been friends. So it's I would definitely buy that Kate would be like, yeah, this might not be your decision. This might be something you're getting guilted into or bullied into. So no. No, like attached to Paige, it's more questionable. Like it might be a no, and then okay, we'll talk about it later to see what's going on. But Ellie, is a new friend, and I think that she's obviously had to notice the change in Ashley. It's like, okay, maybe she does truly want this because the rest of her aesthetic has changed so much in the last couple of months because earlier in this season she's not quite this, she's still looking like we said, like she could have shopped at JC Penney.
Right.
But you get past a certain episode and you're like, yeah, Ashley's leaning full hard into the eyeliner.
It's yeah. I mean, I get it. She's been through some trauma and she's trying to find her way in the world. And she's always been kind of dark.
She's always had
it was a short
undertone
walk
to her.
From, oh, please, how I can be all that you ask of me and still feel like I am free to be
who I am.
To goth Ashley. It was not
Ashley. And I started off just saying that I actually do like this B plot, and it's true. I do like it for what it ends up being. I feel like Ashley really deserves to have a genuine friend in this time of self-expression, even though I don't I'm just looking at everybody as more of an objective character versus how I personally feel about them, and then I'll trash them later. Right. But I think that it's a lot of growth for Ashley for the historically for the things that she's done in response to not being allowed to self-express and say no or say yes because she feels like she has to do something else. I think it's a big step for her to be like, yeah, no, I'm not doing this. And I mean, Ellie must be a safe place. You start, big changes happen in, places where you feel like, okay, I have the best footing here. And perhaps she doesn't feel like she could do it before now.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a power girl moment. So go Ashley for saying no.
Yeah.
Because body piercings are cool, but piercings when you're being coerced are not cool.
Right. Or, I mean, and she's not even being coerced, but if you don't want a body piercing, don't get a body piercing. It's that simple.
Right. Do what you want to do. Don't do what you
And
don't want to
shout
do.
out to Ellie for being a good friend. Ashley
Mm-hmm.
needs
They're
one of
hard to heart.
those.
She does. Their heart to heart is sweet.
I know she deserves one of those, but she needs one. The the A plot I feel like is a lot more insidious. Like it sounds like, oh, kind of cutesy silly boys joyride whatever, but I think Craig's trauma is the main character of this arc.
Absolutely. And it's weird because it's like you said, it's not an outright thing. Like the
Nothing bad happens.
yeah, like Joey's response is fairly appropriate for
Mhm.
what could have happened. Like this was the best case scenario.
But I think it's interesting, we start out with like Craig being like so not used to like freedom and respect.
Right. That he's surprised at every turn and he's kind of taking it. He's like drunk with power.
Yeah.
He's like milk wasted. And I think it's definitely like his surprise at him saying like, where do I go? So we can presume that Albert sent him off somewhere if he
Right.
ever left Craig. If he left Craig, it would be with a babysitter, but I would think he would probably take Craig with him
Mhm.
most places, especially after Julia dies. I think he probably went with him, or he was at, like we know we went to camp
Right. Well, and
for the
Joey or
summer.
Craig's like status at this point as like he's essentially a foster kid.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know how long term this is. Like Joey could get sick of him at any moment, but continues to not get sick of him. And, like, I can get that being overwhelming. And I can get even too, you know, I think Craig probably knew he would get caught
Probably.
and knew that if he did get caught, he would get in trouble. But I think that it's probably Craig pushing boundaries not to see what he can get away with, but to see, like,
What the reaction is going to be.
what's the line? When do you hit
Yeah,
me?
when do you hit me? Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And I think it's very like reminiscent of a kid being in a new situation. Like he is for all intents and purposes of a kid, but like a
Yeah.
baby new to this world, like figuring out everything. Like they have to reorient themselves because like this is a new place.
Right.
And for Craig, it's like he definitely doesn't know what the like Joey's been nothing but temperate and nice with him because he hasn't done anything wrong. Now there's like, okay, how far is this going to go? You're yelling. Okay. Are you going to like hit, like knock stuff
Right,
over? Are
when do
you
you
going to
hit
hit the
me?
wall? Are you going to hit me? What are you going to do?
Joey is so frustrating this episode.
It's
He
hard. It's hard to be Joe from Joey's perspective, but it's also definitely like to think about why Joey is so like he's not being analytical about any of his
any of it.
actions.
Like, we start off with Craig shows up with, and Joey had told me he could have a couple of friends, but no booze, no girls, no parties. And he shows up with what, 3 friends?
Mm-hmm.
And Joey, and it's just Joey being Joey and being a goofball and whatever. And it's like, what the hell, man? I told you could have a couple of friends over and you invite the whole school.
Right.
And like with a kid who hasn't just left a highly abusive home, that could be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the kid we're dealing with, Joey.
Yeah, and it's hard to like think that he is just not wanting to get the situation that he's put himself
Right.
in that regard. It's like you've got to think of the things that make people anxious and the things that trigger someone, especially if you don't know what those things could be because you haven't, presumably there hasn't been much like in-depth conversation about the abuse, and it
Right.
feels like Joey might not know how far it went. He just knows it's bad. He
Yeah.
knows it was bad enough that Albert didn't fight legally to get his son back from Joey because he knew that if the details came out, he would lose. That's all Joey really knows based on what's happened and what Albert has and hasn't done. He most likely hasn't and I mean just his character, it's totally in line that he would like just want to do the right thing but not fully understand what the right thing entails all like in different
Right. He's
situations.
not he's not trauma informed.
And he's emotionally immature He's a sweet guy. He's always been a sweet guy. That's not his problem. He's kind of like JT.
Mm-hmm.
He's a sweet guy, but emotionally, he's out of his depth.
Yeah.
He's like out of his league, man.
Well, and I think, the thing with the thing in the towards the beginning where he's like, "What, you invited the whole school,"
Right.
is one thing. I think the more glaring example of Joey not knowing what he's doing here, and I think it's also more understandable because he's angry. He's never dealt with this. Angie's like 5. She's not going to be stealing cars for a while.
Lucky him. And then
But
she just
Craig,
disappears.
but when the guys have left and it's just him and Craig in the house, and Craig's sitting on the couch and Joey's just kind of standing behind him, and like that had to be terrifying for Craig because he doesn't know what's coming next, and he's used to needing to know what's coming next so that he can protect himself. And I
Absolutely.
think it's really interesting when Craig stands up and Joey yells at him to sit down and he says, "You're not my dad." It's very much not a like, "You're not my dad" type of
Yeah.
thing. I don't think
Yeah.
he's saying it to Joey at all. I think he's saying it to himself. Like, this isn't your
Yeah.
dad. You're still safe.
It's you feel so sad for Craig because it's
Always.
like in this situation, I think it quickly becomes apparent in his eyes. Jake Epstein, his face completely shifts from feeling apathetic to feeling like on edge and alert to feeling like triggered, devastated, like anxious. Like he's got so many emotions on his face
Right.
in this argument because he really does come off as like nonchalant, apathetic to Joey's anger, but it's a defense mechanism and
Right.
you can so tell.
Right. It's not just some punk kid who's like, "Whatever, I don't care. Fuck you, I won't do what you told me."
Mhm.
Like, it is a kid who has been through hell.
Yeah, it's a trauma response and defense mechanisms are spawn and are in them in and of themselves trauma responses.
Mm-hmm.
So him trying to dissociate but can't he can't dissociate because there's still things actively happening that could like affect his physical safety possibly. He's on edge and he's like, "Oh my, what do I do?" And it like the tone shifts so much just not even because Joey's yelling but by Craig's emotions on his
Yeah.
face. Like that's when the episode shifts and we're like, "Oh shit, Craig's going, this is hard for him. This is really hard for him." And I mean, of
Right.
course there's a little blip in the beginning of the episode like you said, but it's like nowhere near this like tone shift of damn, Craig is still like these things are going to affect him for the rest of his life and this is a really triggering situation for him right now.
Right. I hope somebody gets Craig into therapy.
Oh, well, if you're watching along, I hope that they get Craig into therapy too. And that
We should
is how I can avoid spoiling things.
we should talk about the more fun parts of the episode, although I use the term fun very lightly. First off,
Very lightly.
Kid Elric. Is
Yeah.
that like Degrassi Universe Kid Rock? Is that where we're at with
That
that?
I think so. His styling is very but it's also like I don't know. I think it's supposed to be a name. It's probably, but like I feel
In my
like they're
head
just
canon, he's Kid Rock. He just says A.
yeah, he right. And I think
Ba
that's
with the ba,
probably
eh? Bang to bang, diggy diggy.
I think that's probably the best thing for the fan is to just make that canon. I don't know if it was apparent to most people, but that's what I've always thought.
Wanna be a cowboy, eh?
And like they're all so into him in a way that I do remember like now it's obviously hip hop is the new pop stars, new rock stars, like that's why there's like on children's movie soundtracks there's fucking rap songs instead of rock
Right.
songs. They're pop songs. It's a little jarring actually. It's like every child's like media has a trap beat now and it's really weird.
It's so funny though. I think a lot about how much of an influence like 90s Nickelodeon had at bringing like hip hop and R&B into white suburban living rooms every weekend. Like, I remember the first time that I heard No Diggity by Blackstreet because they were
changed
on all that, and it changed
it
my life. I was
changed
like,
your
what
life,
is
Karen.
this?
What is this beat? It changed all of us too. But it's so great that you say that, because it really, it's a choice, like, of what programming or what like celebrities and stuff to have on the show, but it's also a choice of what musical acts to have, because like that
Right.
is what kids are exposed to. And like so much of kids, like I said, kids media is now not really R&B, not really pop, not rock. It's hip hop and rap. That is
Unless
what
you watch
I
Bluey,
like.
and then it's just a lot of classical.
Unless you watch Bluey, which my child will be watching Bluey,
Oh my
even though,
god, I'm about to have a
because
kid just to
the
make him watch Bluey.
sensitivity shown to, like, I watched like 2 seconds of Bluey and I'm like, I can't, because I'm just gonna deep dive into a children's show that I am probably gonna be forced to rewatch anyway. So I'm not gonna do this.
Yeah, but you're
I'm gonna
gonna
make
okay, but
it
here's
like
the thing is
exciting.
you've got at least like 3-4 years before you're
Bluey
gonna
hits
be like
home.
watching Bluey all the time. You should watch Bluey. It will make oh my god, it's so good. It'll make
It'll
you a
heal
better person.
something.
Not that you're not a good person, but
No, I
it'll
just think
heal shit.
like,
It's
yeah.
I so my husband and I have started watching it. I don't know, like my one of my kid brothers passed away in July, and I had to go to Indiana to be with my family. And my little sister and my stepmom were just like watching Bluey nonstop. And so I kind
Yeah.
of got into it, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of cute and touching and whatever. So I
Mm-hmm.
get home and I convince my husband to kind of begrudgingly watch a couple of episodes with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes like before we part ways for the night, he'll be like, okay, we can watch a bedtime Bluey. And then
Mm-hmm.
after like a month of that, like 4 times in one fucking week, he's like, do you want to hang out and watch Bluey tonight? Do you
Mm-hmm.
have anything to do tomorrow morning? You know, it's Saturday. And I'm like, no, I don't actually have anything until like 3. Do you want to get really stoned in the morning and watch Bluey? And like, it's
Mm-hmm.
very cute. It's like our thing now. And we were talking the other day, like, it is not a show for kids. Like, it's a kid friendly show and kids love it and enjoy it, but it was made for parents. And so, like, honestly, no, watch Bluey before the kid comes along, because then you'll just like right out the gate be the best parent in the world,
I feel like in a way, a lot of these
and
shows.
you'll understand the Bluey like cross posting meme I really want to send to you that you won't get right now.
Got it. So I need to.
You
I
got
love
it.
having to watch something to get a meme. I love
Just
the
for the
reward.
meme.
I love like the reward of that is really satisfying though. But like, I gotcha. I will watch Bluey.
Sometimes this is a Bluey podcast.
I feel like the fanaticism that they have over, like how excited they are over Kid Elric, like it wouldn't be believable anymore if it
Mm-hmm.
was like a one guy that's got a cowboy hat on and is like crouching. Like, I'm just thinking of the
Right.
performance he gives like seasons later, because we do actually see Kid Elric. Spoiler alert! I spoil something.
I don't think
There's
that
a
that's like a major.
That's not a
I
major
think it's
spoil.
okay.
That's fine. There, a
I'm never
character
gonna watch
goes.
Degrassi now.
I'm done. You've ruined all 14 or 12 plus seasons for
18.
me. 18. Oh, I always
If you
fucking
count
forget next
next
class.
class as a like
16. So we
no,
have
no, it's 14
16
and then
seasons
4
left,
more. So it's yeah, there's so much Degrassi,
because
guys.
we're in season 2. So we have 16 more seasons, 18
Everybody
total, right?
wants something.
That's a little daunting saying that. But anyway, a character goes to a Kid Elric concert, and the way that they're like jamming in the front of the venue, like uh 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 Kid Elric is my jam. And this is significantly many years later.
Right,
Like
Kid
this,
Rock did not last that long.
like the celebrity of this guy is like really high for him to be still selling out, so like youth,
Right.
like with the youths.
Yeah, no, props to Kid Elric for staying relevant for that long, I guess.
That's very difficult, but I definitely had a okay time watching this episode until it got to the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
That it just the nitty gritty always bums me out a little bit though. So it's like that turn that it like it makes me kind of prefer episodes of Degrassi where it's either serious or it's light.
Right? Give me
give me give me
like
weird
Time Stands Still, where
science.
tragedy hits Degrassi, and also in this episode Joey sells his
Joey sells
house.
his house. Yeah. Like that's such a mixed bag, man. Just focus on one thing.
Right?
Let me, I don't need like they're just giving me every other, like some, like the format starts to become like you get every other scene to process the bullshit
Mm-hmm.
that is occurring, which I don't know, I don't think that's better, versus there's just a tonal shift in the middle of the episode, or like not even the middle, like with 10 minutes to go, so you just want to bum me out and then leave.
Right. Well, and
It's
it's
not
like
even 10 minutes, it's like 5 minutes.
it's like 2 minutes.
Like that, these episodes are so effective. I don't know if we discussed that at all, but they're like the length of them, it feels like every time I go to watch them, I'm like, oh, I need to set aside, typically our episodes cover
Two
two of
episodes.
the Degrassi episodes, so it's like, okay, I need to watch two episodes, I need to set aside at least an hour and some change. No, they are 40, it's like 45 minutes, if that, to watch both episodes, no breaks.
It's
And
crazy. I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, I was just saying, and it's definitely, I always forget how short they are because they feel so long. Like there's just a lot of packed content, but the pacing never feels like, oh, we're getting so much and we are like, I'm overloaded. It just feels like appropriately length, but they're all so rich.
Right. No, I've been realizing, because like I'll have to jump around to like get the quote right, or like grab a fashion screenshot or whatever it is. And like I'm watching on my phone on Tubi, so there's that like 10-second rewind. And like how much can happen in 10 to 30 seconds in TV time is really interesting to me.
Yeah,
And I'm
it
noticing
definitely
that with
is.
this process. And Degrassi, it might change when we get to the boiling point. I don't know. I've never heard of the boiling point. I know nothing about it.
The
Doesn't sound
boiling point is the
exhausting.
wild, wild west, and we haven't even decided to set off for it yet.
Well, I mean, we said
We
we're doing
haven't
it
even.
all.
No, I'm just saying we have like our calendars in terms of like, if we want to use like timelines, we've got a while. Like
We've
we've
got a
still got a
long while.
harvest to sow and plow so that
But
we
y'all,
can afford to go west.
we're planning to do the
But we're
boiling point.
going
So like
west.
please start praying for us now.
It's a
And
lot
and when we get
but
there,
we're
send coffee.
excited.
We're
Oh,
excited.
so excited. For lemon ginger tea for me, please.
No, you're
That
gonna
is,
want coffee.
I
By
don't
the
see
time we're nah,
coffee makes me so jittery. I
you
have
say
like a
that.
caffeine tolerance. Oh, trust me. I used to
But by the
power
time we get to the
drink
boiling
coffee
point, you're gonna
like a
have like
couple years,
6
not even a couple
kids.
years ago. Girl, caffeine for ADHD, if you guys did not
Oh,
know
fair
this,
point.
caffeine for ADHD ain't good. It
Okay,
does what
so
any
just send
stimulant
Avis
in my body,
cocaine.
yeah, any stimulant in my body, like that's what I need, honestly, like pharmaceutical cocaine if I'm gonna do anything, because like anything caffeine for my body, like I can power drink a 12-ounce or 20-ounce coffee from Wawa and then go back to sleep.
Remember when Wawa
Something's
coffee
wrong
used
with
to be
me.
good?
It definitely used to be better. In college it fueled me, and I thought I was just vibrating like from life, but no, it was the jitters.
It was the Wawa coffee.
Yeah, and I was not taking anything pharmaceutical. I think I was just younger, and so I had a little bit more energy in my body. But yeah, ADHD guys, like Spinner. I am I have the ADHD. But speaking of Spinner, he's off the rails in this episode.
I love they're like so bored, and he's like, "You want to live on the edge? I've got an idea," and the idea is cans of spray cheese.
Yeah, like, and they're all so, and I realize how much he is like a kind of a co-captain of the bullshit in this episode, because Sean is like the third mate
Mm-hmm.
of the because like, of course Craig even introduces the idea of the car after the spray cheese, after they're like, fuck, this spray cheese thing is dumb. Like, then they go back and sit on the stoop, and they're talking, and Craig's like, oh, I love driving, like, oh, I know, and Spinner's like, oh, I bet you know where the keys are, and he's like, yeah, but I don't want to
Not
use those keys.
not to bring it back to like everything being sad, But I've noticed watching that scene, like, Sean's the only one who knows what Craig's talking about.
Yes.
When he's talking about how much different it is, like, everybody else is just kind of like, oh yeah, your dad was kind of a hard ass and Joey's kind of cool, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But like Sean and
Knows the
Daniel Clark, you
reality.
can
Yeah.
see it in his face.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. I feel the different relationships he has with these guys. Like Marco is probably the one that's like he has to be the one that's like, no guys, this isn't a great idea, but I'm
Right.
going along for the ride. Do, 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 do. That's typically the role he plays. But I also like that Sean is vocal in wanting to experience that freedom. But at the same time, you're right. Like he has that prior, like that knowledge that maybe if Spinner had, he wouldn't have encouraged him so hard or,
Right.
goaded him into taking the keys and breaking into the car lot. Like it's questionable, but I think like we were talking about in a different episode, but it's the same character, so the conversation is relevant. But it's just like how Sean has a different like worldview based on like his socioeconomic status, but also how he was raised. And I
Right.
think that that lends him a little bit of apathy sometimes, where
Mm-hmm.
he's just like, if they're willing to make these to take the risk, why should I step in and tell them it's not a good idea because of the abuse and maybe you don't want to make waves in this
Right.
situation
Well,
and
and I
blah blah
think,
blah.
I don't think that Sean was subjected to the same kind of abuse as Craig.
Mhm.
I would be surprised to learn that like his dad never smacked him around a little, but
Mhm.
I don't think that his dad ever like chased him into his room with a fucking golf club.
I doubt
Um
that.
but I think, in the future we get some glimpses of Sean's parents, and I think Sean didn't come from a household that was free of abuse. And I think, certainly it's not just a binary of like these are the two ways you react to abuse, but I think like a lot of kids fall somewhere on the spectrum of like you fall in line
Mhm.
or you fucking rebel.
Right.
Because if they're going to find a reason to beat you anyway, you might as well steal a car, right?
Yes.
And I think Sean is more one of those.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, and I mean, in this instance, their personalities they don't clash because it's like they're in the same, like, not same boat, because like we said, we can't, like, not to the degree that Craig has experienced, but there's definitely similar characteristics in each of their households, especially
Mm-hmm.
with the way that it does what it produces in a child. And I think that for Spinner, like we've said, like he's just not a character who's experienced anything like that. He's super laid back, goofy, and you can tell by the way he acts. He doesn't have a care in the world other than he'd like a little bit more money. Who wouldn't like a little bit more
Right.
money?
Right.
Especially when your friend's
Spinner's never
fucking
had to
rich.
worry about food on the table
Right.
or the lights staying on or any
Or
of
his
that.
physical or
Or his
mental,
physical
emotional
or
safety.
mental, yeah.
Yeah.
You
No,
know?
all of those needs were met. And you can tell by the way that he's like, what could the repercussions possibly be? It's a joyride.
Right.
Like, you've driven the car before. It's your your guardian's car. If he's even
Right.
thinking of it that deeply, he's like, you know the guy who has the car. If he's thinking of it a little bit simpler,
Right.
he's like,
And then
fuck
you've got
it.
Marco,
Yeah, just Marco.
who who I think is not a product of abuse, but a product of like
Shame.
a new world kid in an old world home.
Yeah, and like knowing having like kind of a stricter, more defined moral code where it's clear that like
Mm-hmm.
Spinner, especially by the way he jokes, just doesn't have that. Whereas Marco
No.
knows what would happen if he, basically like he doesn't need all the situations to be specified. He knows that if he, took something of his father's and went into his father's place of business and did this and that his ass would be grass. He doesn't need this
Right.
specific instance to know like, oh, okay, I shouldn't do that. Like, oh well, maybe my if because it's the car. No, he's like, Marco's like, that shit's not gonna fly. My dad would kick my
Right, and
ass.
he's not going to get beat about it, but his dad's going to be really angry and cold to him, and his mom's going to cry a whole fucking lot.
Right. It's just he'll be grounded, like there'll be a lot
Yeah.
of there'll be those kind of repercussions, which for a kid like Marco is punishment
Is
enough.
enough.
Yeah.
Right, no, because Marco's a good kid. Marco doesn't really want to make a lot of waves. Marco doesn't really want to get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, he's got other things on his mind.
But he would like something more exciting than cheese in a can races.
And I mean, the bar is low for excitement, but just not spray cheese.
Right.
Like that's just not entertaining. But like my bar is like maybe one step above that. Like I feel like that's how all of them feel in this episode. They're like,
Is it really bad prank phone calls?
I feel like that's like the situation's dire. Yeah.
I used to be so good at prank phone calls. It makes me mad that like Sean's just like, oh, this is the power company. Like, bruh, shut up.
I think like yeah, like that's like that's probably the bar. Like we're doing crank phone calls. Like yeah, that's probably where we're hitting the notch on the we're running out of ideas kind of.
Right. But like, why not make it a fun group activity that everybody can actually take part in and not just like be like, haha, fuck you, Sean, made you look dumb in front of Emma.
That is like it soured the mood of the
Right.
otherwise jovial fucking crank phone call. Like yeah, it could have been a group thing. They could have passed the phone around. They could have
You
farted
talk about
into
it
the
ahead of time and come
phone,
up with something,
burped, like what they could have. There was a lot of opportunity.
I mean, shit, even taking an old classic like Is Your Refrigerator Running,
Yeah,
you can run with that.
absolutely.
You can.
And the adrenaline is what makes it fun.
There was a period when I was a teenager where my biological dad and I were like estranged ish. And it used to be like you could like they had like these calling cards that were specifically for prank calling where it would like disguise your number and it would change your voice.
Okay.
And so I called my dad's house one night. I'm like 17.
Mm-hmm.
And I use a male voice and I spoof the number so like it looks like it's a number from like his area.
Mm-hmm.
And my stepmom picks up the phone and I'm like, "Hi, this is Jake Johnson with General Electric and I'm just calling to see if your refrigerator's running." And my stepmom's like, "Guess I gotta go check," and hangs up. And I call back and I get her on the phone and I'm like, "Ma'am, this is Jake Johnson again from General Electric. I don't think you understand. I need to know, is your refrigerator running?" And she's like, "Well, I'll go check it or whatever. Or I gotta go catch it." And she hangs up. And I call back and my dad gets on the phone. And I'm like, "Hello, this is Jake Johnson from General Electric." And my dad's like, "Well, hi, Jake." And I'm like, "Look, I understand this seems like a prank phone call, but we're having a real issue. Refrigerators have gotten minds of their own. They're running rampant. Kids are going missing. Pets have been taken out of people's yards. Really need to know if your refrigerator is running. And if it is, sir, I need you to unplug it and chain it down." And I end up having this like whole weird conversation with my dad, who at this point I haven't spoken to in like at least a year.
Okay.
And then years later, I'm living in Indiana and I'm hanging out with my dad one day and I'm like, "Hey, weird question. Do you remember ever getting a prank phone call from a guy named Jake Johnson?" And he goes, "From General Electric? Yeah, how the fuck did you know about that?" And I'm like, "Well, sir, this is Jake Johnson calling from General Electric." He goes, "That is the best prank phone call I've ever gotten." He's like, "We always kind of hoped you'd call back."
Oh my gosh, right. We were just waiting. The entertainment. That's funny. And I mean, like, you can't, I mean, you can still do prank phone calls. You just have to get one of those text free app numbers and,
Right, just get WhatsApp.
yeah, and you just do it that way. I have done that before, like in the modern era. I've done that's, and those are, I can attest, just as fun. Mm-hmm. Convenient, just as fun.
Yet there are lots of ways to have fun with the boys for the weekend that don't involve indigestion from spray cheese, or Grand Theft Auto. Like there's a lot.
There was a lot in between those things that they didn't consider. They didn't even like try to get anywhere on foot. They didn't go try to meet up with any of the girls anywhere else.
Right. Joey didn't say you can't talk to girls, period.
Right. He's just like, you can't have girls over. Okay, the world is your oyster. I get that the house is your oyster, but it's like, a house is just a house, especially when it's like, you can't do anything inside of it. Like, at least y'all have run of the house when it's just y'all in the evening. I would have planned to be out on the fucking town. Like, we're scooting booting or whatever the kids say. Down down to downtown Toronto.
Yeah, the kids definitely say that's what they
That's
say.
totally what the kids say. They say scootin' bootin'.
Yep, I've heard them, in
I've
fact.
heard the kids saying that.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
I mean, they live in a
Listen, no, the kids don't say rootin' scootin'.
they live in a metropolitan area. There are things like damn Kid Elric concert ticket contests happening in a park nearby. Like you guys could have gotten there.
Right.
Like there are things you could have done.
Well, they didn't know that that was happening until, and I get,
Well, no, I
I get
just
the
mean
mindset
like
there. They're like,
there are events, there's things that they could do
right.
and get their like Marcos talks about parking the car and going there on foot, and it does seem like maybe it's a 20-minute walk, 15 to 20-minute walk, but like when you're a kid, that's not bad at all.
Well, I get the thought process there, which is that like this is an, like, I'm sure it was planned, but an unannounced event.
Yeah,
If they get there right now, they have a chance at these tickets. But no, there was shit that you could do.
right,
You live in a
like
metropolitan area. You
yes.
live in a walkable city. Like,
Yes, like they're like that is the ideal teen scenario. And don't rush to drive. Driving can be terrifying. Can we talk about
driving
that?
sucks.
I
I love
love
driving and I hate
driving, and I hate,
driving.
yes, that's, and I mean, I think that's most adults' perspective, because it's like ideally you're zooming, you're flying, you listening to
Right.
your jams, you know,
But
and
like,
it's nice, and there's no
it takes
traffic.
forever and your back hurts and other drivers are
And they
idiots. I'm like,
suck, and
nah,
there's
just
construction, and there's highways, because most of the where I live, there's like you're hopping on a highway to get, like that's the quickest way, and you can
right.
avoid the highways, but like then you're taking the streets, and there's stoplights and there's buses.
Well, where I live, we're like the state that like did not just cut through the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
So like some stuff is just like so far away
Yeah.
because like the highway goes north and south.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't really have like much in the way of east west. So like if you're not right in the middle of the state, like you've got to get off the highway and drive. Like
Mm-hmm.
shit takes so much longer than it should need to.
Yeah.
Plus we just had all that flooding in July, so
Mm-hmm.
all of these roads are getting redone. But like Middlebury, Vermont is like 40 miles from me and it's an hour and a half drive.
Oh geez, wow.
Because you
Gotta go around.
you just like you got to go around. Yeah.
Damn,
Yeah,
that
there's no
sucks.
highway that gets there.
See, that would cut me off significantly from like visiting people in either, like, in either direction. Yeah, 40 miles is like
Yeah.
35 minutes.
Well, it took a
40,
long time for me to get
if that,
used to it because I grew up in Delaware, and
right.
like you can drive from the
Huge.
top of Delaware to the bottom in an hour and a
Yeah,
half.
like they're the
And
huge
so I grew up with
highways, the
that.
massive
Well,
large
and it's just
highways.
small to
Yeah.
begin with. And so, like, my mindset growing up was like, if it's more than 15 minutes, it better be fucking good.
Yeah. And that definitely is my mindset too. I've had to expand it a little bit, but
And now I'm like, oh, it's just like a 4. Like sometimes I go and hang out with our producer Dylan, and I'm like, oh, it's just like 7 hours, whatever.
like that is a beast of a trip. Like,
It is.
and
It is, and I'm not young like I used to be.
it's
I
hard.
can't road
Yeah,
trip
road
like I
trip is
used to.
hard on the body,
You gotta
especially
pee
if
more
you don't want to
often,
get
and
out and pee or stretch.
right.
Because like you have to pee. I think that I've found creative solutions, not to get too deep, but for not having to stop all the time when I'm peeing. But that is only if you're not driving. If the driver has to pee, then we're
Right.
stopping.
I remember my dad, not to get too like into stuff, but my biological dad didn't have very much in the way of intestines after I was about 6. He had an accident and lost most of them, and so he had a colostomy bag.
Mm-hmm.
And we would take a lot of road trips because I lived in Delaware, they lived in Indiana, so like there would be like the big pick up the kid road trips, and like my mom would do it one way and my dad would bring us home or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And his solution, because he couldn't just be emptying his ostomy bag every fucking 20 minutes,
Yeah.
was he had like a gas can and a short piece of hose,
Mm-hmm.
and he would like feed the hose into the gas can and then rubber band it to his bag and then just be like, I'm a road warrior.
Oh my gosh. MacGyver
And
that
like,
shit.
oh my god, yes, my father was the MacGyver of poop bags.
Oh my gosh.
In news that should shock no one, we have gotten off topic.
Yeah, I mean, but this is such a
But that's
it's such a mini episode, and I feel like once we get into categories, it's just gonna be done.
right. But speaking of, should we get on into those categories?
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah, we did everything in my opinion.
I think we kind of covered everything. This isn't like a hard hitting episode to begin with. Like it is it's an interesting glimpse into the Joey and Craig dynamic.
Right.
But like that's not really like that's like the subtext. It's not the plot.
Right. And also, I mean, I guess it's semi important to mention they do win the Kid Elric tickets. Craig answers the question right that Kid Elric is divorced, but Joey has
Rips them the fuck
has
up.
a reasonable reaction of ripping them up, and Craig is left in shambles essentially.
Which, like, spoiler alert, we're gonna learn down the road that Joey has like money troubles, so like maybe you shouldn't have ripped up those tickets. You're gonna sell them instead, Joey.
Yeah, those scalpable tickets. Yeah, Joey. Yeah, I think other than that little detail, Spinner, we're good. We can spin on out of here.
All right. So you wanna mosey on over to the fashion corner?
Absolutely. It's gonna be a very, very short mosey, and then we're gonna sprint away.
Yeah, fashion was light this week, and then also, you guys are smart. You've probably already figured out, like, we broke this up because of the last week's episode with Shane, and so, like, we had tried to be light because we wanted to have him on for the full episode, wanted to respect his time and make the most of it.
Right.
But it was fine because the fashion was lacking anyway.
The fashion. I only have one for fashion.
I only have two.
Okay.
You want to kick it off?
Yeah. So for me, I actually really do like Ellie's look at the piercing. In the piercing scene, you can see it best when they're outside walking and talking, having their heart to heart. What I like the most is I feel like she's worn this piece before, but for some reason it looks more like a corset this time. She's 100% going to wear this top again. She loves this top. And the spiked dog collar, again, she loves this piece. But the skirt is like kind of a pencil like skirt. She's got it high waisted. It has a zipper down the front. She's carrying this little handbag. I can't, it's an appropriately themed handbag, but I really do like her little fishnets underneath, and her hair is piled up on her head in an odd way, but I don't hate it as much as I hate like the little like tri ponytails that she does, or
Oh, the fucking tri ponytails.
Other crimes that will be committed in the future. Yeah, that's mine.
Yeah. So I had Joey at the car lot in the opening scene. Again, he's so fucking monochromatic. I got feelings about it. And then my other was I just took a shot of Ashley's hair. I think this is one of her cuter cuts. I don't think it's her best look, but I think like this haircut works for her. It looks good. It looks like it doesn't look like she's trying too hard. Some of her other haircuts look like she's trying too hard.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, Ashley is a try hard.
And that will be directly said, shortly.
But so those are mine.
Yeah, I think, we're good. We're good to mosey on, sprint on out of a mosey to the fashion corner and on to
pew, 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 pew.
Fire some shots.
I liked when they're stealing the car and it stalls and Spinner's just like, short drive, dude.
Yeah. Same vein when they're in the car driving later after Craig successfully starts it again. He's going granny type slow, and Spinner says, "Whoa, slow down, it's getting scary here." Did you have another one?
I don't.
Okay, my last one is just a little bit more nondescript. I would like you all to hopefully you're watching the episode, but if you could humor me and go on and look at the part where Spinner farts because he ate too much spray cheese, and the entire car, most notably Sean, are visibly disgusted and like audibly like up in arms at having to be exposed to
Spinner's stinky asshole.
Yes. it's quite it's quite prolific, so I would go rewatch that scene. But yeah, that was my last Second and last shots fired.
All right. I guess in that case, it is time to hand out some awards.
Yeah.
We got some shining stars. We got some super bummers.
Yeah. Shining star wise.
I hate to say it, but mine is Ellie.
Yeah.
And she's my only one,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Nobody else is particularly like, everybody else kind of like either sucks or is not really like notable enough for accolades.
I agree with that. She's such a good friend in this episode, and like I started off at the top saying friend trauma is real. And I think that
Friend
Ellie,
trauma is so fucking real.
yeah, I think that Ellie is like a good, like just a, they're a good match. And I mean, I do think that her showing her vulnerability, it just makes the scene so good that like, and then Ellie just saying, you're my friend. You don't have to impress me. Like, I like you for who you are, baby. She doesn't say for who you are, but she's like, I like you. You're my friend. And it's very sweet. And she deserves a shining star because she definitely, every time I watch that scene, it gave me a little bit of a tear. Like, oh my gosh, I love the heart to hearts in Degrassi. They're so fucking good.
They are so good.
Yeah, I don't think anybody else really fucking deserves it or came
No.
close. So the super bummers, I have two.
Okay.
I have Sean and I have Spinner and I have also I'm gonna throw Joey in there. I don't know why Joey wasn't at
Joey,
the top.
I think definitely is a super bummer.
I don't like peer pressure though. And I feel like though Craig peer pressured his damn self some of the way, like there was just a little bit more of like, oh, you're not backing out, are you? And like just making the situation something that socially he felt like he couldn't back out of. I wish to say that Craig bummed me out, but I just ended up feeling sorry for him in terms of how triggered he is and like how hard of a time he's going to have, clearly.
Look, I am a not even trying to be recovering Craig apologist. Yes. You do not have to justify to me why, not putting Craig in the super bummers.
Craig will be a super bummer though, so you just wait.
Oh, so many times.
You just
so
wait.
Many times.
It's coming. It's coming for us all.
But no, I would agree with those assessments.
Marco's just the neutral. Like he says like two things like for and against.
Marco's really just kind of there.
He's fine with the keys being taken, but he's not fine with like driving the car. But yeah, no, I think those three were bummers. Sad for Craig. Whatever, no, Ashley's not. Ashley didn't bum me out. She didn't bum me out. I think she was relatable, and I think that she didn't take forever to get there. She didn't get a piercing. She actually said no before, so good for you. But you're not a shining star.
I do want to say he's not eligible for a shining star or super bummer because he's not a character; he's a plot device. But shout out to Attila.
He's so lovely. I want him to be my piercer.
He's like very like step by step. Let me walk you through
and
it.
Soothing.
And I like that in a piercer. And soothing.
I want him to record an audio.
It is a little weird to me though. Like you would think at least the first go round of piercing a minor, you would need their parent to actually come in, not just sign a form.
You would,
but whatever. They only have 22 minutes.
Right. Like they're right. I think that with the time they were very, they had to be thrifty, but it. Mm-hmm. Probably a licensed establishment would require parental supervision.
Right.
Is it different in Canada, guys? I don't think so. But yes, Attila was lovely. I agree with that.
And then that just leaves one more question to ask. Does it go there?
Does it go there?
Does it go there?
Does it go there? Did it go there? Will it go there? Would it go there? Could it go there?
Does it have the potential to go there? Is it able to go there?
I know. I think this is a low stakes episode. I think we get some important stuff. I don't think it goes there.
Yeah, just because, it did get its own little episode, but we just could not leave it out. It does have its important, threads, but it's more foundational, like we were, than an actual high stakes episode. The most high stakes thing that happens is Kid Elric tickets get ripped up. And Craig is further traumatized.
But I think also probably healing. I think it probably,
That was the most healthy
like,
exchange
in the
of
long
parental
run,
anger.
seeing like, okay, here is a parental figure being mad at me.
Yeah.
I've been punished. He maybe flew off the handle a little, but he didn't raise a hand to me. Like, I
Right.
am safe.
These
I'm still wanted in
consequences.
this
Yeah, and
home.
actually like the consequences fit the crime. Like it's
Hmm.
not like, he's grounded, but you also can't go to the concert. Like fuck that
Right.
concert, and that's
Right.
appropriate.
He could have had your ass arrested, Craigley.
He has the cause, but we know damn well that Joey Jeremiah is a puddle of pudding. And the fact that he the fact that he even like he's like, Craig, I could have you arrested, and is able to say that with a straight face, just a testament to how angry that man was.
Mad he is, yeah.
And I will take that. I'm gonna try to look for more instances of Craig's healing, because I do think he's in the background and approaching episodes. But I do think that he's
Hmm.
in a healthy environment. I do want Joey to just, you know, learn a little bit more about yelling unnecessarily just for
Right,
your anger.
right.
Like it's not going, like what you
Like,
did is fine, but what you like, the energy you brought into the situation and shouting at the top of your lungs, even though you're rightfully upset, might not be, it's for you, it's not for the child.
listeners, if you're going to bring a traumatized child into your home and you are not already trauma informed, fix that
Yeah.
and get yourself in therapy,
Classes
and
and
also get like
therapy.
family therapy.
Yeah, and it's important because it's like these, like you might not know what you contribute to this
Right.
trauma. And it's important to know what your triggers are. It's important for, like, Joey needs to reevaluate and be like, okay, I'm clearly triggered by Craig not respecting boundaries that I set for him, and boundaries that I didn't even
Right.
think I needed to set because I thought it was unspoken that you don't do this.
Don't
Don't
steal a
fucking
fucking car.
steal one of my cars. Didn't think I had to say
Right.
that, but it's like a lot of work needs to be done before we can be like, being 100% informed is never a bad thing. It's only going to help you.
Thank you for listening to your mom's podcast. Next week, we'll be talking about Shouts Part 1 and 2, which largely focus on Paige being sexually assaulted. If this content is too heavy for you, we understand, and we hope you'll join us for the second half of the episode, where we will be focusing exclusively on the B plots, which show JT and Toby clashing as locker mates, and JT and Liberty being awful to each other. There will be a note at the top of the episode letting you know when it's safe to join into the episode. And if you'd rather avoid it altogether, we hope you'll join us the following week. Thank you.
This episode of Your Mom's Podcast was made possible in part by Poor Parent-Child Boundaries, Jeremiah Motors, and Kid Elric. If you'd like to further support our show, you can follow our Facebook page and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at YMPadcast and TikTok at Your Mom's Podcast. You can also visit our website at www.padcast.com. Your Mom's Podcast is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you feel so inclined, subscriptions and reviews are another great way to support the show. And if you'd like to support us financially, you can subscribe to our Patreon at www.patreon.com/yourmomspadcast. And remember, that's Padcast. PAHDCAST. Thank you.
And we'd like to thank the following people for supporting the show on Patreon: A Butts,
Octavia Faith,
Margot Mancini,
and June Bard. Thank you.